The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. As Jesus was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a sizable crowd, Bartimaeus, a blind man, the son of Timaeus, sat by the roadside begging. On hearing that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me." And many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he kept calling out all the more, "Son of David, have pity on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take courage, get up. Jesus is calling you." He threw aside his cloak, sprang up, and came to Jesus. Jesus said to him in reply, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man replied to him, "Master, I want to see." Jesus told him, "Go your way. Your faith has saved you." And immediately he received his sight and followed him on the way. The Gospel of the Lord. So as a priest, I frequently get young men and young women who come up to me and say to me, "Father, I think I have a calling to a religious vocation or to the priesthood. But Father, I'm not sure because I still kind of have this inkling like I want to get married." And it's an understandable response. But then there are times when they still feel that calling 3 years later, and they still feel like they're called to be married. And they're waiting for some sort of push from God. And when I speak to seminarians and people who are discerning a vocation to the priesthood, I often have to tell them, there is no burning bush. It doesn't happen. Because that's what we often want as human beings, right? When we ask God, reveal your plan for me. We don't just want like this small little feeling to come. We want a planned itinerary. We want God to tell us, Father Chris, you brush your teeth at 6 a.m, you do morning prayer. The assignment you want to pray for is this. Even when we're suffering through something, it's human. We want to be completely healed. How does it relate to this gospel? Well, we can all step into the shoes of Bartimaeus. We can understand where he's coming from. We've been through events where we want some sort of physical healing. But he also gets spiritual healing. Bishop Barron had an excellent perspective in his reflection for today. He pointed out that it's unlikely Bartimaeus was completely spiritually healed from his blindness. And it goes to show that perhaps the Lord has a plan that we don't always consider. And it kind of occurred to me, and I'm wondering if it occurs to you. Think about the times when you were either suffering or someone in your family was suffering or a friend was suffering. And you got through it. You were present to one another. You helped each other. And the bond between you was strengthened. My friends, we can live a lonely life. We're individuated. Life can be pretty lonely. Perhaps the Lord doesn't heal us because he knows we need each other. He knows how lonely life can be. Perhaps the Lord doesn't fully give us his plan for us because he knows we want a relationship with ultimate goodness, with unconditional love. It's a tough world out there. Sometimes we might get caught thinking that, you know what, there's no such thing as unconditional love. Think about it. Even if you had the greatest of parents, they made mistakes. They're human beings. Everyone makes mistakes. So if we think of unconditional love in its purest sense, where do we find it? Except through Him. That's why God doesn't always answer the prayers that we give Him in the ways that we want to. He doesn't give us His plan for us. He wants us to reach out to other people when we're suffering. Think about Bartimaeus. He actually had an advantage a little bit. Because when he was blind, someone had to lead him where he had to go. Think of the times when we let our own egos get in charge and we fall flat on our faces. Because I want to say, I'm in control of my life. Ha ha ha. What do they say about God? You want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans. It's true. So my friends, the message for us today is to reflect on what prayer is coming to my heart. And perhaps God's not answering it the way you want it to be answered. What's God telling you in that moment? Is there a bond that's been strengthened because He hasn't been answering your prayers? I suspect in some cases that might be the case. So my friends, as we continue to pray, let us pray for each other. That we recognize those bonds, especially during times when we're suffering. Especially during times when we feel alone.